now. Yes, we're live. Yes,
Hello.
you're live.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dana Rido. Can you hear me? Everything is fine?
Everything is fine. We can hear you. Everything is fine. Just go.
Okay. I come also from the peptide world, and I would like to show a bit of a different perspective on how to develop a long-term platform in the private sector, which is, I think, a bit different than everything you have seen before. I will try to get you through a journey that has taken me 15 years, and I'm not coming from this scientific side, although now I understand quite a bit. But I've gained quite some insights on how hard it is and how fascinating and funny and weird. So here are some of my hard-earned lessons. I think that what I've learned is that it's really, really hard to develop a platform in the private sector. It's always one bridge too far, and you hear many obstacles. And if I would have known to begin with how hard it will be, I would never have done that. One of the things that I think is the scariest things to investors is this coming song, and I hope you can hear it.
What is the issue is going on, Dan?
I'm sorry?
What the issue is going on in the sharing of slides? Are you facing
Yes.
some?
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear you. Are you facing some issues in this sharing of slides?
Can you see my slides?
Yeah, I can see your slide.
Okay.
You just need to go and click on the slideshow button so that the slide will cover a whole screen.
Okay.
Yeah, perfectly all right. Now go with
Okay.
it.
So the problem is that you come to investors, and what you want them to do is to take a chance on you. And when you come with VCs and others, it's always, you always have to show one bridge, the next bridge. It's always one bridge too far. And this is creating a lot of problems, especially on the private sector. So what are the main obstacles that we find is, first of all, when you're looking for investment, you are faced with a Groucho Marx effect, known as the Russell paradox. Is if you come to investor, then yes, why do I want to be a member in a club that wants me as a member? And that's a pretty tough cookie, because most investors, regardless of what happens, are really are really driven by media, or driven by, I would say, some sort of a herd mentality. And we got that so many times because we came from such a breakthrough technology that it was hard to believe how hard it was to get investors. The second rule is the IBM rule. Nobody gets fired for choosing IBM. It has to be perfect. It has to be good. It has to be without any problems or without any gaps. And they want also a discount on the investment. And then when you give it to them, you go back to the Groucho Marx effect. Why do you give me that discount? And then when you go to big pharma, the Kahneman rule gets in. Nobody gets fired for a deal he did not do. Pharma will not invest on risky stuff. They will invest only when you have first stage, second stage. They will pay a lot of money, but they don't want to buy in on risk. And there's, of course, the Jewish grandmother rule, which says a grandmother goes to the beach and comes a big wave and takes the grandson. So she yells to the heaven, I've been good all my life. I'm with my husband, even though I don't like him. I've done a charity. I've done this. I've done that. The heaven comes back and says, well, we can't take it anymore. You're screaming. Here's the grandson. Comes a big waves, brings it back, She looks at him and says, well, goes to the heaven and says, well, he did have a hat, where's the hat? So you can present them all the good stuff that you have done, and then there's something which is not good enough. The courage paradox is a problem because we learned from, Prime Minister, that when bureaucracy wants to kill a project, all you have to do to tell management is it's a really gutsy move. We see it in governments, we see it in investment, we see it in corporate. Courage is a dangerous word, and courageous programs are even more hard to come by. What are the real problems of developing privately something with a long view? Is that most of the problems are coming in your family, because we have done this for 15 years, developing this high throughput phage display, effective combinatorial biology platform. And it took us a decade to develop, and developing such a decade is emotionally exhausting, and the price you pay for family and friends is unimaginable. And this is, I think, the hardest part that you see in every investment, that on a long term. I've suffered family crises, I've suffered meltdowns, I've suffered my family stopping believing and then coming back, and my friends coming back, and since we are all on it together, it was really a hard drive. And it was hard for me because it was my money and my friend's family and my family's money. And sometimes when we really had hard time, it's looking them in the eyes and they look at you and say, okay, you failed, so what have you done? And this is really the hard part. It's not the technology. It's managing this valley of death of proof of concept, which is the hardest for any leadership to do, not the outside problems. I remember when we started in 2006, phage display was, and everybody was talking about how important it is to get new molecules and new things, and people told me, yes, just get us a molecule and we'll work with you. It's not really happening, because you show them one thing and then they push the bridge one more, show us the next proof, show us the next effort, show us the next proof of concept, and it doesn't work. You can't rely on a business or developing a platform on the base that you will get a cooperation for big pharma or venture fund, and you have to look at getting funding on your own and streamlining your business to be the most effective you can without any other excess costs. The cycle of innovation is not easy, because usually it's continuous process and erupted by violent revolutions. This is what we believed, since what Dr. Murad and Dr. Itzhaki were able to do is to develop the phage display into a very practical phage display with no limit on the number of rounds, by eliminating the inhibition that prevented that. And that gave us the ability to find peptides which are very, very small, very effective. And this enabled us to do the cure for concept that we advocate right now. But that took a decade. And took a decade just to stabilize the platform and to get it first going. And now we're starting to get the recognition that of the efficacy of the platform and the efficacy of the solution, but it takes time for the market to catch up. And the problem is that you have to get the entire ecosystem behind you. If you don't get the entire ecosystem behind you, you are sort of isolated, and nobody wants to recognize it. And I think that for 5 years we knew that the platform is working, but nobody was willing to hear or to understand or to accept. And that's what basically drove us, in order to be able to prove that the platform is working, to show it on one concept. And we try to first show it on the EGFR. And we showed it in EGFR and said, okay, but others doing the EGFR receptors and targeting the EGFR receptors for cancer, and that's everybody's doing. So we developed the concept in order to show that we can do more than just EGFR. We did PDL1 and CMET, put them all on the same peg and showed how effective it is. And then we started to get some traction. And this is the hardest stuff to do, to try to persuade the market that you have something which is different. And when you're coming from such a different perspective, because everybody's talking right now on immune therapy, and everybody's talking about small combination therapy, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted to do something which is so clean, which is so different. And it took us a few years just to get them to listen. And that was really, really hard. One of my great heroes is Mario Kapecchi. Basically, he was a Jewish child who was sent to an orphanage home during the World War II. And when his mother was able to get released from the concentration camp, she found him in one of the nursing homes and took him to America. Kapecchi was a great scientist, and when he entered Harvard, he finished all his PhD in Harvard, and then they asked him to stay in Harvard and do more research, and then Kapecchi refused and went, I think, to the university in Mormon in Utah, and later on. He received a Nobel on the work he was done in Utah. And what happened was fascinating because the NIH, he had made a grant for the NIH for 3 different researchers. And the NIH said, we know who you are, you're a big name. We'll want to sponsor 2 of your 3. And he said, no, it's a bundle. You have to take all 3. So they said, we know who you are, we'll sponsor the whole 3. And he took the whole money and put it in one research. And on that research, he won the Nobel, he was awarded the Nobel. And then the NIH wrote to him, we are glad that you didn't follow our advice, which was the first time ever. I think there was something like that. What made his decision is that he found that the Harvard environment demanded results too much in a hurry, and he wanted to do something which is not just one step. He wanted to do something which is a breakthrough, and for him, he felt that Harvard was an environment that will demand results too quickly, and that's why he decided to go to the University of Utah, where they granted him the 10-year that he wanted. So I took his story and I share it with investors and explain to him how hard it was for us to get something as fundamental as we do. And actually, this story helped me raise funds, so I'm very happy about it. What Kapecchi said is that the NIH sensible way is expert-led, results-based, rational evolution of project is a sensible way to produce, but it's exactly the wrong way to fund lottery ticket project that offers small probability of revolutionary breakthrough. It is a funding system to avoid risk, one that puts more emphasis on forestalling failure than achieving success. For us to take such a risk was huge because we are not in a university kind of environment, and for us it's 0 and 1 and we can lose everything. So this was really, really hard. And I also remember what President Kennedy said, we chose to go to the moon in this decade and to do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And this kind of attitude allowed us to survive 15 really hard years. Truly, investing in inventing new drugs is a staggering number. To invent a drug is billions of dollars if we take not only the direct cost, but also the cost of failures and everything. So you take the balance sheet and you divide it by the number of medicine that you have, and the numbers are crazy. And what we believed is that it's time to see something different because the way drugs have been invented are wrong. And that's what we did. We actually spent money on developing the platform that will enable us to do many, many things. The problem is that in order to show that this works, we had to do something in cancer to show how effective this is in order for everybody to be able to come back to us on the platform, which is what we wanted to start with. As you can see, the numbers of new molecules are ridiculously low compared to the costs. So the R&D productivity is not really changing for many years, and as Einstein said, it's kind of crazy to do things the same way again and again if you see that they're not working. And that kept us going because we knew that once we solve the problem of the platform, we can do many things. One of the things that always, if you also see now with Pfizer vaccine, Pfizer did not invent the vaccine. They actually joined a small, I think, a couple that came from Turkey that created a company in Germany, and that where Pfizer started the vaccine. And big companies really rarely innovate, and we see it again and again. Kodak failed to innovate and bankrupt. And what pharma is doing is actually buying companies and buying innovation, and that's basically the major source of their innovation. They are not inventing big innovation, mostly inside. Most of it is being bought outside. The PDL inhibitor of Merck is basically a company that they bought, a company that bought something, and it was not even bought, and they didn't even buy the inhibitor they didn't even buy this company for the inhibitor. They bought it for other reasons. They actually, when they found about this inhibitor, they actually gave it a value of 0, only because somebody else was doing it. They didn't sell it, and it became a $10 billion income for them yearly now. One of the main interesting stuff that I found looking at the history, which I'm a bit of amateur historian, is that many times over, the big question is why some states or companies are totally been able to renovate themselves while others are not. And the answer is that sometimes the elite that is controlling countries, or the elite that is controlling companies, has to be removed physically in order for the companies to I'm not recommending this, by the way, to be able to resurrect in a different direction. That's why when you see a CEO change, you know that the company is going to change direction, because the current management is committed to something which is not working. So you see a CEO, you know that there is a change in the direction. And Germany and Japan were able to resurrect so wonderfully after World War II, because they were able to change the management, and the whole elite that was controlling, the military elite that was controlling Germany and Japan, was basically out of power. So this is what we had to go through. And today's a completely different story. Peptides were not big stuff when we started in 2006, 2007, but we knew that peptides are the future, and we knew that the peptides are going to come around, and we knew that we have to survive. We didn't know, for example, how we are going to prolong the longevity of peptides in the blood, but we knew it's going to happen, and we know we will find the way, and we find it through pegylation. And when 2006, 2007, peptides were really an obscene word, and now what we see is everybody's coming back to peptides. And then you come to some of the companies, and you present this presentation, and you show this proof, and they tell you, look, I can't be bothered to see any crazy salesman. We have got this big battle to fight, and this always drives me crazy. Just here at our house, but they're so busy, they're so overrun, they're so exhausted, they're not willing to listen. what it brings us to is the mentality that I call the Israeli nuclear arm mentality, is that Israel will not be the first to insert nuclear weapons to the Middle East, but it will also not be the second. And that's the bit of the herbist mentality that we see from Big Pharma. Rarely Big Pharma wants to be just the first one. They usually work in assortments of stuff. And what we see sometimes is that, for example, what happened with Merck is that after they wanted to totally abolish the PDL1 project, only that they heard that GSK is doing something, they kept it. So managers really tend to pick a strategy that is least likely to fail, rather than pick a strategy that is most efficient. The problem is that sometimes also what you plan and what actually comes out is totally unpredictable. What we see more than once is that when we started the process, what we designed and what we came up with completely different. And you have to give yourself a room to maneuver and to do stuff on a regular basis. One sec, please. The problems that we have is that we have a catch-22 syndrome. We have no big names, no big investors, no publicity. And when you come to Big Pharma with that kind of small company that have no names and no investors, they always ask you, why don't you have all this kind of stuff? And we say, we're not able to raise the funds. And then they tell you, okay, so raise the funds and come back to us. But we cannot raise the funds because we don't have the big names. That's a big challenge. So what we did is kept on the research, kept on the R&D. And while we did that, we were able to show the proof that enabled us to make the progress that will get us into this. This is mice results where we had used our cure for cancer concept with 3 targeted peptides of EGFR, PDL1, and c-MET on a PEG. And what we saw is that with 2 weeks of insertion of injection to the tail vein, we were able to slow down the tumor, which is quite amazing because, let me just show you this. This is a RAS mutation solid tumor that we stopped. And RAS mutation, I think, is one of the hardest targets ever. And we were able to do it because we used the triple attack based on the platform that enabled us to enter the tumor while injecting to the tail vein and not to the tumor itself. In this case, we only used one dosage because we didn't know what's the right amount. And we found also that the PEG was not as effective as we thought. But obviously, we can do better, and that's what we are going to do next. By the way, the mice in all our experiments never died or never suffered anything, and all experiments were done in vivo. Some of the answers I get over time that sometimes is, this is a fascinating technology. Let me find the correct person, and we'll come back to you. And then this is what I get. I was able to look back to our oncology team, and the target is not a mechanism of action. But the problem is not the mechanism of action of the target. The problem is that you're trying to attack something from a totally different perspective, and then middle management really kills the idea because they're trying to look at what we see as the wrong problem, as demonstrating in the complexity of the RAS mutation. And what happens is, this is exactly where things started to add up. We were talking about going through the receptors, and then 2 years ago, we started to see that the pharma is starting to accept what we offer, which is going through the receptors and valid targets when you don't need to find necessarily a new ones. And while doing this, we were able to overcome and basically work on the hardest targets available, which is the solid RAS mutation. And we were shocked that people didn't understand how important and how significant this effect is. Fortunately, lately, Professor Levitt, the Nobel winner, has seen this result and was really impressed and was kind enough to write about us on Twitter, which really helped us. And we are grateful for his support. And this was actually enabled us also to get more media coverage. And now media in China covered us quite nicely, and this gives us a lot of connections and a lot of VC interest, and that kind of breaking the 22 catch is what giving us the lift and the power right now to go on. There are always problems. There are always people who also trying to teach you on the way how to do things. And sometimes I get investors who present to me their friends from the synagogue saying, "No, look, I'm a big investor. Here's your new advisor." And basically, no, I will not have it. It's hard. You have to face up to a serious investor who says, if you don't get this advisor, you will not get any more investment. And I just say, no, don't invest, because that kind of interference is only interfering, creating costs and not adding anything. What keeps our investor base reasonably quiet is that we work on low budgets. We control the very tight expenses. We report honestly. We don't, on the other hand, report every little bit of info because it's really hard, and most of our days are really bad. When we have a good day, it's really a good day, but most of our days are bad. We have a big dream. We get good reports from professionals and opinion leaders, and hopefully now we get media recognition. So some of my conclusion: there is no substitute to understanding in details the procedures, the technology, which I do, and that helped me create a really good dialogue with investors and media, and keep everybody's going. There's no such thing as pure management relying on expert advice. Management has to know the details. Science and technology never work in a straight line, and what we thought will have worked not necessarily worked, and you need really a team of believers and dreamers, and that's where the can-do attitude works. And your team should be with people you are committed to, and that's skin in the game. And without skin in the game, you achieve nothing. And there's no substitute for good people. You need to have a very supportive family and to be able to live well with uncertainty, which is hard for many people, and it's not for everybody. Change masters, find your champion. We're trying to find change masters in some of the companies we work with. It's not always easy. Once, I think we found one in a big traded company, and I hope we'll close a deal soon. And that will get us going, because we need more funding than we have right now, and everything that we have done until now was private funding, and this cannot continue so much anymore because the costs are now much more serious as we go. We want to finish our preclinical and go to phase 1. Can you see? Hello? All okay? I assume yes. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Dan, for a wonderful presentation. And I hope that this will add value in my attendees profile. Thank you so much. And I think I would request audience, if they want to ask anything, ask any question to Dan, they can send them a question in the chat so that he can answer those questions. And then thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Thank you. And
Sure.
after some time, we will be And after some time, we will be coming with another presentation. Just wait a moment and we will be coming back. Thank you. Thank you.